We had 40% margins in an industry that aims at 15%. So we were just massively over-indexing, and it's because I found really, really smart people. That's my only real skill. People are a miracle. People are amazing. You know what I mean? Like everything amazing that's ever happened in the world, a person did. Your inbox is other people's to-do list. If you were to wake up today and only do what was important to you, and you did that every single day for 365 days, your business would be 10 times the size.
Hey everyone, welcome to the e-commerce traffic and conversion podcast. I'm Scott Brandley, and I'm here with my host, DJ Sprague, and our very special guest, Kasim Aslam. Kasim, what a treat, man, to have you on the show.
Jens, thanks for having me. I appreciate you. I've been excited. As soon as it's in my calendar, I've been thinking about it since. So it's come to fruition now.
We're super excited. We've known Kasim for a long time. In fact, we're part of his mastermind group, Driven. He's a brainiac, just a super smart guy, super fun guy, funny guy. Well, he thinks he's funny. I kind of think he's funny, but he knows a lot about a lot of things. And so we're going to get into some of that today. So just a little background in Kasim. He's the founder and CEO of Solutions 8, one of the world's top-ranked Google Ads agencies. Kasim was also named one of the top 50 digital marketing thought leaders in the United States by the University of Missouri in 2020. And until recently, he was also the co-host of the long-running podcast Perpetual Traffic, one of the top traffic podcasts online. His book, The 7 Critical Principles of Effective Digital Marketing, which I have and read, and it's awesome, was featured as one of the top 100 digital marketing books of all time by Book Authority. He's also co-founder of the Driven Mastermind and creator of Pareto Talent. That's what it is, Pareto Talent, which we're going to talk about today.
Pareto refers to, it's a mathematical principle called the Pareto distribution. And I think it's named after a mathematician named Pareto. And it's the 80-20 rule is how people commonly term it. So it's 20% of your participants yield 80% of your results. And it ends up being true in almost every organic ecosystem. It's weird. Like things that you wouldn't think it would apply to, like 20% of farmland produces 80% of the yield, or 20% of your customers produce 80% of your income, or I don't know what, 20% of your pores produce 80% of your sweat. I made that last one up. I don't know if it's true. But it's strange because almost all organic ecosystems follow this kind of weird idiosyncratic rule. And when you know the rule, you can index in the direction of the 20%. And we've done so with hiring. So we find, hire, train, and staff executive assistants. And we're trying to only find and hire the 20%. My little sales pitch.
Wow. He was an Italian mathematician, if I'm not mistaken.
The name would suggest such. Yeah, anything that ends in a vowel, and I just assume.
Yeah, he was Italian and came up with a Pareto principle, which is classic. So get into that. Let's talk about Pareto Talent and what that is and how you got into it and what you're doing with it. And
I sold an agency. I sold my marketing agency 2 years ago, which was a fun saga. And I know we're talking to e-commerce owners, so I think the exit story is probably an important one for e-com folks specifically to pay attention to. In order to exit, you have to prove a future promise of scale, because people are buying something today that they want to be worth more tomorrow. And that's especially true for e-commerce. So one of the things from an agency perspective that we were able to show was an ability to capture high quality talent. Because as an agency, you only have three things to sell. You have people, processes, and programs. And processes and programs are very commoditized and commoditizable, right? Like anybody can go be a shopper approved customer. So I can't sell the fact that I have shopper approved in order to resell my customers. I can sell the fact that I know how to use it better than anybody else, but that goes right back to people. When I sold, I had 100 employees, and during due diligence, the question that was asked over and over and over again is, where are you finding these people? Like, how do you find the level of talent you find? We had 40% margins in an industry that aims at 15%. So we were just massively over indexing, and it's because I found really, really smart people. That's my only real skill. Like if you see me, you realize very quickly, you're like, Kasim's more successful than he deserves to be. And it's because I've gotten really good at finding people smarter than me, conning them into working for me, and then leaving them alone to just go do magic. And that's sort of my thesis. I'm really sick of entrepreneurs and business owners saying things like, oh, nobody wants to work these days. It's so hard to find good help. I just can't find talent. It's not true. Like people are a miracle. People are amazing. You know what I mean? Like everything amazing that's ever happened in the world, a person did. right? So the key is finding the right person in the right seat on the right bus, and then putting them in a situation where they're actually inspired and incentivized to do the thing that you want them to do. So for e-com businesses specifically, the disadvantage that you're at, from my view, and I've had hundreds, if not, it's got to be bleeding into the thousands of e-commerce customers over the last 20 years, just because of what I did for a living. Everything becomes hyper efficient once the market identifies the problem. So a really good example for that is like Klaviyo, for instance. Follow-up in e-commerce was an absolute, complete, and total nightmare. And then somebody cracked the code and figured out how to do e-commerce follow-up. And you think like, oh, good for me, the e-commerce business owner. Well, sort of, except it's good for you and it's good for every competitor you've ever had. So your ability to create margin within those systems is decreased because the system offers the same level of efficiency in a commoditized fashion to everybody. So what ends up happening is, well, how do you set yourself apart? How do you differentiate? And, there's a couple examples. Reputation, obviously, right? So reputation ends up being absolutely key. Product, obviously. And I think a lot of e-commerce business owners ignore products at their peril and at their detriment, but you can improve on product and then improve on the way that product's articulated. But then in my mind, it's personnel, it's people. And for e-com specifically too, it ends up being things like, man, just the tried and true, the cliches. It's like, how's your customer service? How's your follow-up? How are people actually engaging? And if you don't have the people on staff that are capable of doing that, or capable of following processes, or capable of building out a reputation management, you know what I mean? Like, you need people. You have to have really good people. And so that's my soapbox is, and you don't have to hire my people. I don't have enough people to staff, like we're a quality over quantity type of boutique staffing firm, but go find the folks that can be really passionate about what you do. And my soft advice there is they're probably in your customer base. Most businesses don't think about hiring their customers, but I've done it over and over and over and over again. And the gal that ran I had a agency for Montessori schools. The gal that ran my Montessori school was a client of mine for a long time. And I went to my client list and I said, hey, I need an executive director. And she raised her hand and she was like, I own a Montessori school, but before I started my school, I was a software engineer. It's perfect fit, right? So talk to your customer base, talk to people that are rabid fans, build a community around your product. And the people that are passionate about your product are the people that are going to speak to customers and speak to the product in the way that you want it to be represented. I hope that wasn't too much. Feel free to just chop me up, fellas, if I'm talking too much.
Yeah, no, that was a really good, interlude into what this is really all about and what you can bring to the table and why. So give us an example of what somebody, Pareto Talent or not, that is skilled, quality, vetted offshore talent could bring to the table for an e-commerce brand. What are some examples?
So I think what e-commerce store owners need to do first and foremost is take inventory of what they're doing on a daily basis. And so if you were to spend 14 days, just track what you do. And there's apps that do this for you now. And they're AI-driven apps that are amazing. Just track what you do. Track the phone calls you take, the tasks that you complete, the things you execute on. Track the interruptions that you receive throughout your day. Track the things that you need to do in order to get your business to run. And some of them are ultra high level. Finding and developing a new product, that's ultra high level. Now, maybe somebody could help you with research or ideation or whatever, but that's the type of thing that I think is a founder-led task. And then there's stuff like following up on support tickets. That's what I would term, if you think about, like, let's give ourselves 4 quadrants. There's $5 an hour work, $50 an hour work, $500 an hour work, and $5,000 an hour work. And if you don't believe that you're doing $5,000 an hour work, I don't think you're thinking about your business in a scalable fashion. Because there is such a thing as $5,000 an hour work. And the ideation of new products would be a really, really good example. So your job as an entrepreneur is to push yourself as far as you can in those last 2 columns. You want to be as far as you can in $500 and $5,000 an hour work. And that's where you build your business. You work on your business, not in your business. You're actually doing work that really matters. And I've named these columns, by the way. The $5 an hour work is assembly line work. So this is stuff like data entry, copying, pasting, following established processes, anything a McDonald's employee could do, responding from a script, basic customer service. So if you're an e-commerce business owner and you're doing anything in quadrant 1, not only do you need to delegate it, but you need to kill with fire the little gremlin in your mind that makes you think that you can or should be doing those jobs, because you are sapping your company of its most important resource, which is you. So $5 an hour work, and everybody knows that. Everybody knows I shouldn't be doing $5 an hour work. That's an easy give. What they don't realize is how easy it is to find somebody who could be passionate about that work. I have a gentleman who works for me. His name's Juan Cruz. He's a professional CPA out of Buenos Aires, Argentina. This dude loves numbers, data entry, categorization, nomenclature, stuff that would make me want to put my head into a trash compactor. And man, I swear to God, he lights up when he talks about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so it's not that this job sucks. It's that this job sucks for you.
Right.
So go find the thing. And then the other thing that entrepreneurs do too is they don't do the teeter-totter. They don't look at the teeter-totter properly. They think to themselves, if something costs, like I can do this in 30 minutes and it's going to take somebody else 4 hours to do because I know the business, I know the industry, I know the customer, I know whatever. So why would I go pay 4 hours worth of time for something I can do in 30 minutes? And it's because they're not doing the arithmetic properly. They don't understand the arbitrage. If you were capable, Mr. and Mrs. Entrepreneur, of doing $5,000 an hour work, which we know you are, because you can exit your business. And what are e-commerce multiples, guys? It's got to be 10 to 15x, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, depending on the margins.
Easy?
Yep.
Yeah, depending on the margins. So with an e-com multiple, if you're building a business that can exit for 10 to 15x, that's 8 and 9 figure exit territory. I exited at 6x and I got 8 figures. And my business is a fraction as efficient as an e-commerce business. So to tell me that you can't do $5,000 an hour work, I don't think that that's an argument anybody can make. So we know that your time can be worth $5,000 an hour. You're not willing to outsource a 30-minute task because it's going to cost somebody else 4 hours. Well, that 30 minutes is worth $2,500. So what if you have to pay somebody, I don't know what, $20 an hour, $50 an hour, $500? When is it not worth that? Right? Like it doesn't matter that you're going to be more efficient or effective than them. What matters is that the utilization of your time is more efficient and more effective elsewhere. Yeah. So get rid of your $5 an hour work. Get rid of your $50 an hour work. And this is where entrepreneurs start to get a little finicky, a little squirrely on me. They're like, well, wait a minute, because $50 an hour work, this is skilled labor. So this is management and supervision. You inspecting what you expect. You ask somebody to do something and you need to check and see that they did it right. Entrepreneurs have a hard time letting that go. Client management, maintenance and repairs, basic creativity, basic thought leadership, basic sales. They, especially if you've grown your business from the ground up, these are tasks that are really hard to relinquish. But the right person isn't just going to do it as well as you. They're going to do them better. They're going to do them better. I promise that's true because your highest and best use as a founder is to be a founder, it's to be a visionary, it's to keep going, it's to keep growing. So we need to get rid of your 5 and your 50. Now, here's where I'm going to massively overstep my bounds. And by the way, I'm a hypocrite because I'm bad at doing this. Your $500 hour work, we call this your superstar work. This is like software engineering, negotiation, high-end sales, attorneys land here. Not that I love attorneys. Offer design is a good example, process creation, high-end creativity, high-end thought leadership. I would love to see a world where entrepreneurs are actually trying to delegate this work too. Now, this is difficult work to delegate. You could probably delegate this to 1 out of every 100 employees. But, and you know, that's maybe hyperbolic. Let's say 1 out of 20. 5% of your staff is capable of superstar work. But the 5% that are truly capable of it will astound you. My exit came from the fact that I had the number one Google Ads mind in the world, John Moran. And if you know Google Ads, you know John Moran. And there's nobody in the world that's better. Google support reps tell us all the time, oh, we just watch John's videos to learn what's really going on. John was an employee of mine that I made a partner. I gave him 10% equity in the business to slack golden handcuffs on him. But that was a delegated task. He was way better at Google Ads than I was. We built the number 1 ranked Google Ads agency on the planet. I've never once run a Google Ads campaign end to end. I built the number 1 ranked Google Ads agency on the planet. I've never built Google Ads end to end. John's one example of many. My former EA, Yvonne Boonin. Yvonne started as an EA. He was a student in Poland. I think you guys have met and worked with Yvonne, haven't you? He's a faculty member at Driven.
I don't think it's not that I remember.
If you haven't, you will. Dude, he's such a delight. He's so bright. I was paying him $1,200 a month to be my EA. There's not a problem this kid couldn't solve. And I just lobbing things over at him and they'd get more complex and more complex. When I sold my agency, he's the one that managed 100% of the due diligence.
Oh my God.
He built the data room. He answered all the M&A questions. I have this in writing. I'll show y'all if you ever want to see this. The Goldman Sachs private equity Ivy League educated douchebag that was running the process for the acquisition team. Forgive me, I'm only being mildly combative because it was a really difficult process. I actually really loved the guy that we were working with, but he was hard on us. I mean, hammer, anvil, me in the middle. And they're sending these emails. I'd forward them to Yvonne and I'd be like, hey, dude, we have to answer these questions. And so I've got this kid who's a student in Poland He's Ukrainian. He goes back to the Ukraine. He's working for me. He makes this meteoric rise. He handled all my due diligence. He built a business for me in a weekend that made me 250 grand. I sent him a message once saying, hey, dude, I joined Justin Donald's investment mastermind because the worst thing you can do for poor people is give us money. So I made my exit. I've got this big bucket of money. I don't know what to do with it. So I joined this mastermind and I realized everybody wants to buy self-storage facilities. So I messaged Yvonne and I said, hey, I want to buy self-storage facilities. Build me a website that can do lead generation for self-storage. Yvonne builds the website, the funnel, the CRM, the ads, the follow-up in a weekend. Took him 72 hours. I sent him the message on Friday. By Monday, I have it. He starts running the ads. Me and my business partner just bought a self-storage facility in North Carolina. We paid $490,000 for a facility that would retail right now today for 750 grand. But it's because now that's $500 an hour work. But I've got a guy, he's, with a Pareto distribution. He's one of my best, who I'm like, dude, go help me figure out how to do that. I'm the founder. I'm the visionary. I'm the one that gets to say, hey, I've got an idea. I've got money and I've got the knowledge that self-storage facilities are going to be, there's some margin opportunity there because of the way that interest rates are going. Do this for me. Column 4 is where you want to live. I call it Neo from the Matrix. You're the one. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Picasso, Van Gogh, Steven Spielberg. Now, most humans, myself included, by the way, I'm having a hard time figuring out what my 4th column is. This is why I said this is steeped in hypocrisy. And I think it actually has to do with people. I love people dearly, deeply, passionately, and I want to help. So the recruiting thing kind of makes sense, but I don't know that that's all of it for me. But you want to find your 4th column. What is the thing that only you can do? That only your Mother Teresa and it's Calcutta, like only there's a need that humanity has that you can fulfill on. Maria Montessori, right? Like what is the thing? And the way to push yourself out of column 1, $5 an hour work, the assembly line, column 2, $50 an hour work, skilled labor, and even column 3, $500 hour work, superstar, is to delegate and delegate in that sequence. And if you don't have somebody to delegate to, that's the key. That's the inefficiency in your business. You should never, ever, 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 never, ever, ever, ever try to schedule somebody on your calendar yourself. Are you kidding me? That back and forth. Hey, DJ, are you available Tuesday at 4 or Friday at 5? And then next day, DJ goes, yeah, let's do Tuesday 4. Sorry, man. Somebody just booked Tuesday 4. Can we do? You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah. What are we doing here? You're a business owner, an entrepreneur trying to solve the world's problems. And you're sitting there trying to book your own airline tickets, get your own hotel, follow up on emails. Like, stop that. Stop that right now today. Push yourself as far as you can into columns 3 and 4 and delegate columns 1 and 2. And the people that exist that can do this for you are everywhere. There's 8 billion people in the world. And here's the sad news. You ready for this? Because it's mildly predatory and the world's going to hate me for saying this. But it's true. The majority of people are in an economic environment where the financial arbitrage benefits you. There's something called the petrodollar. The US dollar is keeping the entire rest of the world down economically. It's pernicious and evil. And go read The Creature from Jekyll Island and we'll learn all about it. But it is what it is. And if we're going to live in this fiscal environment where the US dollar has the most buying power that has ever existed in the economic world, you can go to international markets and you can get triple PhD talent for effectively nothing. For $2,000 a month, you can get the biggest, there's smart people all over the world. You can go Latin America, East Asia, Eastern Europe, North Africa. Dude, Italy, I just found this out recently. I think the average salary in Italy is like $2,500 USD a month. You want to tell me there aren't smart people in Italy? Wow. Talking about, Pareto was from Italy, as DJ just taught me. I had no idea. Yeah. So the reason I'm telling you to go international is this. I can't compete in North America as an entrepreneur. I can't compete against Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Google. The talent that's here has so many options. It's so easy to be an entrepreneur in this country. God bless this country for it, man, right? That's amazing. And not just us, right? Like North America, the emerged world, whatever you want to call it. I'm not trying to offend anybody. Use whatever PC terms we need to use these days. It's so easy to be an entrepreneur in environments where there's social safety nets and the risk won't kill your children. But if you're in Colombia or Venezuela or Pakistan or the Philippines and you lose your job, the kids don't eat. So you have access to talent in places where just because of whatever environment we're in, they're not going to be able to or want to take the same risks that the highest end talent in emerged nations are willing to take. We don't have access to that talent in the emerged world. So for those of you that are like, you're stealing American jobs and we should hire. No, you can't. You can't. That talent's not available to you. It's not available to you. And I know that because I tried. So go worldwide. It's not hard. And there's fun little pockets. I'll share some industry trade secrets. If you want to hire in the Philippines, go to onlinejobs.ph. If you want to hire anywhere in South Asia, go to freelancer.com or Upwork. If you want to hire in Latin America, there is a Catholic mandate that all Latin Americans are on LinkedIn. I don't know why, but like LinkedIn is like one of the number one social channels in Latin America for whatever reason. And this is where things get mildly racist. So we're all going to get canceled, gentlemen. It's not your fault. It's mine. We'll see how we contend with this. There are, for whatever reason, cultural idiosyncrasies that lend towards certain levels of talent in different pockets of the world. So like if I'm looking for software engineering, for instance, I love South Asia. I love India and Pakistan, but I need to learn the cultural idiosyncrasies there. Indians and Pakistanis, and I'm allowed to say this because my father's from Pakistan, Indians and Pakistanis cannot be on time. I don't know why. There's just, and it's not a racial thing, because if you take an Indian or Pakistani kid and you put them in the States or Canada, they're right on time. They're right on. They're fine. They're like, oh, this is the way that the system works. Thank God the train is on time. This is great.
I figured it out.
Yeah, Indians and Pakistanis from India, if they tell you Friday at noon, it means Monday at 4. And you can either break your head against a wall trying to get them to deliver Friday at noon, or you can just build that into your system. Filipinos can't take constructive criticism. It's psychologically damaging. The Filipinos look at Americans the way that Americans look at Eastern Europeans. They're like, you are very rude. Like, and when an Eastern European gives you feedback, they're like, your baby's ugly. And you're like, how could you say such a thing? The Filipinos look at us the same way. Eastern Europeans can't do things wrong. If you tell an Eastern European, hey, I know best practices dictate that we put a square here, the client wants a circle and they're willing to pay us handsomely. The Eastern European won't do it. So you have to learn. Latin Americans have a commitment to religious holidays that they will lose their job over. So there's just little things. There's these things, but if you and that's what stops people from going international, is it's hard and there's a language barrier and an accent barrier and how do I pay? But if you can just get over those little hurdles, and it's getting easier and easier and easier every day, you end up with access to a talent pool that is not only unparalleled, but is going to help you grow your businesses in ways that you can't currently grow your business. So sorry for the soapbox, fellas. I feel like I got really preachy.
That was insane. Everything you said there is
a cheer to Kasim.
Man, that was awesome. I got 2 things to say. One, I met a lady that left her family in the Philippines. She had a doctor's degree. Yep. She moved here on a 3-year deal where she taught at a school back east. And because in the Philippines, she only made $500 a month with her doctorate. Yep. And so she left her kids for 3 years to be raised by her husband so she could come here and work to make enough money to pay for their future. That's insane. And she was awesome. She was so smart. The other thing I have to say is I cannot figure out in my brain, maybe a bad admission for me as a business owner, but I cannot figure out how to benefit from a VA. I've never had one. I can't get it into my head. What are they going to do? So can you help me with that?
You are insanely guilty of all this. Booking your own reservations, doing your own flights, doing your own Airbnbs. It's like, what are you doing?
Well, I'll give you the cheat code. The first thing I think entrepreneurs should do is get out of their own inbox. And there's a reason for this. It's the problem, but it's also the problem of problems. And I'll explain what I mean by that. When you're in your inbox, and this is Brendan Burchard's quote, and I love it, your inbox is other people's to-do list. Mm-hmm. So if you were to wake up today and only do what was important to you, and you did that every single day for 365 days, your business would be 10 times the size. Mm-hmm. And I'm not exaggerating. That would be the way. That's what Alex Hormozi does. That's what the Elon Musk does. That's what the people who are really they're like, I'm going to work on my things today. What all of us do, most of us do, is we wake up and we look at the inbox. Mm-hmm. And we're like, what do other people want me to do today? So just taking yourself out of your inbox. And here's my personal inbox SOP. My EA's a young lady named Josefina. Quick aside, Josefina is a child psychologist who works in Argentina, who's passionate about helping children, but wouldn't make more than $200 or $300 USD being a child psychologist. She works for me. I pay her 4 times that. She's able to pay the bills, be comfortable, not worry about money. And because of the time zone shift, she's able to help kids in the morning, and then she works for me in her afternoon. So when you do things like this, to the point that you just made, you can change people's lives. Now, I'm not trying to soapbox. We're not a nonprofit, and you need to make money and get a return on investment. But that same PhD that came over here for 3 years, imagine if she had a job working remote where she got paid $1,500 instead of $500, and now she's with her kids and her husband. What an amazing environment that would be. So sorry for the aside. Going back to the inbox, here's what Josefina does for me. Josefina, I wake up every single morning, and Josefina and I communicate with an app called Line, Line. Here's why we communicate using Line. because it's garbage and I hate it and everybody hates it and nobody's ever going to use it. And that's important because nobody talks to me using Line except Josefina. If I talk to Josefina using WhatsApp or Slack, the minute I open WhatsApp or Slack or Telegram, there's 50 other people's messages that hit my brain, and now I've been sucked into the incubus. So go pick a messaging app that you've never used and will never use for anybody else, and that's your messaging app with your EA. Turn off all notifications, and this is the key, all badges for everything else. You shouldn't see how many text messages you have unread. You shouldn't see how many emails you have unread. You shouldn't see how many WhatsApp messages you have unread. I wake up to a message from Josefina every single morning. I'll read my message from this morning. She tells me, good morning. Here are your appointments. I had a 7 a.m., an 8:30, a 9, a 9:30, a 9:45, a 10:30, 11, a noon, a 1, and 1:30. My day is usually not this busy. I was just traveling with my kids for the summer, so I had a really, really busy day. And she tells me what everything is. She also lets me know what's going on in my inbox. And so she'll say, no problems with your inbox. She checks my email inbox for me. She checks my Slack for me. And I have a rules engine created where she will take action on my emails. So I own a couple of different businesses. If something comes in for Neato Marketing, she forwards it to my executive director. If something comes in for Solutions 8, she forwards it to the people that acquired us. If something comes in for Driven, then she'll forward it over to Emma, who's our COO. If there's anything that I need to attend to urgently, she screenshots it, sends it to me in Line. So now all I have to do is watch Line. And all the pressure, all of the fear, all of the things that make you check your inbox every 45 seconds, it's taken off. My Slack and my email is being monitored. I know that my business is okay. I know that if something happens, she'll screenshot it. And when she screenshots it, I stay out of Slack. Hey, somebody's asking if they can move the 1 o'clock to 1:30. And I'll just say, reply yes. She doesn't reply for me. If I speak, I want it to actually be my words. But she's the one managing all this. She archives all the emails I don't need to see. Anything I do need to attend to, she leaves in my inbox. I don't touch my inbox till 3 p.m. So now just my ability from the time I wake up to 3 p.m. to actually work on stuff I want to do. I don't like having as many appointments as I had today, by the way. That was probably a bad example. But now I get to do Q2 stuff. I get to create content, write books, do whatever it is that I want to do that's important to me. At 3 o'clock, I jump in. And if there's somebody else's to-do list, now maybe I'll get to it or I can schedule it or push it off in tomorrow. But I haven't allowed them to derail my day. The other thing that happens, and this is crucial, and this is what I meant by solving the problem of problems, is Josefina starts to learn my business. She starts to learn like, oh, you're building a platform called syndications.com that will help tokenize real estate. And you're working with an attorney on a no object from the SEC. And she sees those emails going back and forth and she starts learning what the process is and learning when the meetings are. And then she starts coming to me saying, hey, just FYI, the attorney sent over another draft to review. Do you want me to put this in front of the partners because that's what you did last time? And now we're cooking with oil, right? Because now it's like, oh, there's a really hyper intelligent person who's dude, she's a child psychologist. This is a smart person smarter than me in so many ways who just lost the geographic lottery watching how I do business and what I do. And she starts picking up those little things like, oh, when this happens, Kasim does this. I can do that. She asks me for permission the first time. The second time she starts doing it herself. And the next thing you know, you feel like a baby being coddled and pampered and taken everywhere you go. She books flights for me. She knows where I want to sit, when I like to fly, where I like to travel, what airlines I like to use. She'll check expenses. She'll send me messages saying, hey, I just noticed a $75 expense come across your Capital One. This doesn't look like anything you would do. And I'm like, yeah, I told my buddy we could pay for flowers for this thing and he's in Wisconsin. And so it looks like it's coming from Wisconsin. Little stuff like that she picks up on because she's in my inbox. And she sees my communication and she knows who I communicate with and in what capacity. So if you don't know how to delegate your EA, start with communication. The other thing, and I'll ask for y'all's permission first, feel free to edit this out, but we actually have a communication library that I give away as a lead magnet. It's paretotalent.com/delegate. So if you want to give that to the listeners, feel free. If you don't, and you don't want me to do lead gen from the podcast, feel free to cut this part out. And
great asset.
Yeah, go for it.
We'll put that in the show notes as well. That's fantastic. The thing is with entrepreneurs, because we've all been in there, right? We've all started our own business and we all started doing everything ourselves, literally everything. Mm-hmm. And it's so hard when that's so ingrained. Well, I've always done all of it. And now you want me to give up most of it? It is so difficult. But yet, it's the only way you can scale. It's the only way you can grow. It's the only way you can focus on that $5,000 an hour task, ideation, brainstorming, connections, networking. Right? Creating partnerships.
I love that you just said that. Networking, meeting people. My calls today they were high level meeting people, building businesses, talking to mastermind members. I can't delegate that. I can't delegate this. I can't delegate a podcast interview. So like this to me ends up being $500 and $5,000 an hour work. Thank you for that example. I didn't mean to interrupt you, DJ. Forgive me.
No, but that's what grows your business, right? Because
Yeah.
it's the people you know, it's the people that know you. And if you're not out there in front of people, networking, conversing, podcasting, calling, speaking, going to the conferences and doing the thing, you will never grow because you'll never have those opportunities, those connections, those potential partnerships, those potential clients. That's really what entrepreneurs should be doing, is growing their business through being out there, being visible, being seen, writing, publishing, podcasting, blogging, speaking, all those things that get you in front of people as an expert, as an authority. Be seen, be noticed. Your assistant can't do that, but your assistant can do 90% of the things that keep you from doing that. I think that's the message.
That was good, DJ.
I think it's Ed Milet that said this. I might have the citation wrong, but somebody said 80% good done by somebody else is better than 100% good done by me.
Yeah.
And I know I butchered that all to hell, but
It's
I think
very
that's
close
true.
to that,
And
I
I
read.
also really believe that if you find the right somebody else, they're going to do it better than you do it. I have this theory called the black box of delegation. The way to delegate is turn it into a black box. Because the minute you start managing the process, that becomes process management. And now it's a whole different role. Now you're just a middle manager. Like you go work at General Motors if you want to do that. There's no reason for you to be doing that as an entrepreneur. The black box of delegation says, this is where we're starting. These are the resources you have available to you. This is what we have, the people, the time, the money, the software, the whatever. This is my desired end result. Hey, Yvonne, I want to buy self-storage facilities. Here's some money. I've got Duda. You could build a website on. We know Google Ads. Like, go help me buy self-storage facilities. And then Yvonne built the website. I didn't love the website he built. Guess what? It's probably better than what I would have come up with. He built the CRM. He built the pipeline. He built the ads. He built the follow-up sequences. I didn't sit there and be like, oh, the red should be blue and the square should be circle and this should be that. The entrepreneurs that get too obsessed with those things, you're too deep into the weeds. Like you can't afford, I'm not saying brand isn't important and brand guidelines aren't important, but those types of things can be assigned a rules engine and then scaled. So let go of how people do what they do. Pay attention to, did you stick to the resources I gave you on the front end? Because I don't want you going off the rails. And did you achieve my desired end result? That's the black box. And in the beginning, it's not going to work perfectly, but you can get better and better each time. And sadly, it takes 4 hours to delegate a 30-minute task because it takes 4 hours to train somebody on a 30-minute task. And so in the beginning, delegation is clunky, but if you can get in the groove of it and make it a habit, man, it's the best thing you can do for your business.
Yeah, it is so true. Quick story. When I was in college, I owned a limousine business, and I didn't want to take the time to train people to detail the cars the way I wanted them detailed, because I wanted the inside of the door jambs waxed. I wanted the inside of the wheel wells washed and shiny black. The car had to look brand new every time it went out. And I had a very elite, clientele in Santa Barbara. And so I had very high expectations, and I just didn't want to go through the trouble. So I ended up working 100 hours a week doing menial tasks that I could have and should have outsourced, right, to somebody else. But that was my entrepreneur's dilemma. I got caught up in my own head. It has to be done my way, and nobody else can do it as good as I can. So I'm just going to do it myself. And that just is such a perpetuating cycle that as entrepreneurs, we have to get out of. We have to let go of that because we'll never grow, we'll never scale if we can't break through that boundary, that barrier.
Yeah. That's what's funny is like when you go to events and you see people that are so much more successful than you, and you're like, I'm smarter than that person. Like, how did that happen? And you start to peel, and I get to do this now because I have a mastermind. I get to see people that are minting money. And I look under the hood of their business. It's not because they do more, it's because they do less. They figured out the one thing that they really crush life at, and then they let somebody else do everything else. So you don't have to know automation and scale and AI and HR and accounting and finance and reporting and exits. And like, you don't need to know all that stuff. You actually only need to know a very limited, it's your $5,000 column, and then let somebody else do everything else. And it's funny when and I realize it's easy to say, it's hard to do, right? Like finding the talent, recruiting the talent, training the talent, retaining the talent. It's a whole thing. But when you do get good at that, man, I feel like that's the easy button to entrepreneurship.
Well, that's when you have freedom.
Yeah. Speaking of the easy button, is there some type of a formula to find good people? Like good VAs, good help?
100%. Yeah, I call it fly traps. So what you want to do, first of all, you have to pay more than anybody's willing to pay. Entrepreneurs have this really bad habit of trying to get talent for the cheapest amount. Don't do that. That's why I like going international. Like everybody, when you go to the Philippines, it used to be $4 an hour. Now it's $8 an hour. I pay 20. What does that really cost you? Because the thing about the Pareto distribution, if you really subscribe to the ethos, by paying 10 to 20% more than the high water mark, or 3 or 5x the average, or whatever, the number ends up being, you don't get somebody that does 10 or 20% more. You get somebody that does 3 to 5 times more. So finding that 1%er, it's like, well, instead of $500 a month, I paid my Filipino EA $1,500 a month. This is a true story. I had an EA, Julianne. She still works for Solutions 8, which is the agency I sold. Julianne was my EA, and the average Filipino EA at the time, I think, was making like $400 or $500 a month full time. I paid her $1,500 a month full time. So you get this unbelievable deluge of applications, and then you set up a ton of fly traps. And fly traps are little tests. One example is my job description says that the email subject line should always say, "I actually read the instructions." If it doesn't say that, I don't look at the application. And it's not me looking, by the way, it's my EA. And then I'll have very specific requirements. If it says actually read the instructions, then make sure you read the instructions, obviously. And in the instructions, I'll say things like, send me your resume in a PDF file using this naming convention. If it's a Word doc, I don't look at it. Because if you're a remote employee and, I'm not there to watch you and to test, I need to know you can pay attention. And then I'll ask them for things. Oh, my favorite fly trap is for the people that actually follow all the instructions. I never interview. My goal is, the interview is the very last thing. My goal is to not even have to do an interview. So I'll say, hey, DJ, thank you so much for applying. I know this is unorthodox, but I've hired so many people that I know that the interview is never going to be productive until we work together. Let me pay you for a trial project. And at this point, you should be down to 10 people or less. And what I do is I pay $20 for 2 hours worth of work, which in international markets is pretty good. And I'm like, I'll give you $20 just to let you know I'm serious. The project's going to be 2 hours. Are you game? Or if you're game, send me your PayPal. When they respond with their PayPal, I send them the $20 and I don't follow up and I don't give them the task. And now I see who ghosts me. And out of the 10, 3 or 4 or 5 people ghost. And so now for $20, I got to see, are you ethical? Are you accountable? And I'll have people a month later say, hey, you sent me the $20, you never sent it. Do you want me the money back? And I'm like, nope, that's yours. God bless. And then the people that do follow up, I say, here's the project. And then if I still am trying to fly trap, you narrow down the funnel based off of how many people are falling down the funnel. I'll do things like, this is my favorite one. I'll say, here's the I want you to build a follow-up sequence on a high level or whatever, make the task relevant to the role you're hiring for. And I'll send them access to a software application or to something, to a drive folder, to something, but I'll give them the wrong password. And then I'll say, how long do you think this task will take you based off of the description? Let's say it's Monday and they say it'll be done by Friday. And I never give them the deadline. I make them give me the deadline because I want to know that they can be accountable to deadlines. If Thursday night I get a frantic email saying the password doesn't work, now I know you're a procrastinator. I want somebody who's going to go check and make sure all the resources I've given them. You do all those fly traps and you can come up with your own fly traps. And then you end up with 3 or 4 or 5 people. All of them are going to be wildly qualified. It's not unusual for me to just hire everybody, especially as I was scaling a big agency. And now it's like, well, who am I the best fit for? We use Predictive Index, which is a Driven member, actually, Allison. We use her Predictive Index. She's our consultant there. So we do a personality test, make sure they're going to be a personality match, which ends up being a really big deal. And dude, I get the best people in the whole wide world. And people are willing to jump through all those hoops because on the very front end, I let them know what I'm paying. And I'm paying multiples more than the rest of the world is willing to pay. But then I end up with these phenomenal resources. So Julianne being the example, hired as my EA, pay $1,500 instead of $500. And you think, gosh, 3X, that sure is a lot. She becomes my director of automations. She's the most brilliant automations mind I've ever encountered. I didn't know that when I hired her. Mm-hmm. So the cool thing about an EA is you got to see what they're good at and then go build a role for them. But my whole agency was automated using Airtable and Zapier, and she did it. And when we sold, that was one of the things that the acquiring entity was like, this is the most over-engineered agency we've ever seen. It helped me exit because I took this $1,500 employee and figured out she's really good at automation. So that's the key. Go international, use flight traps, and then love on folks, man. Be a fun place to work. Don't clock in, clock out, screenshot desktops, be a boiler room. Like, oh, my kid has a ballet recital. Can I go? Yeah, obviously. Please do. Don't tell me next time. Just go and make it up on the other end. Are you doing your work? Are you getting stuff done? Like, you treat them like humans, and then they'll act like, that's the other horrible thing is people in international markets have so few job opportunities. Once they really catch that, like, oh gosh, you're a good person, you're going to treat me well, they become obsessively loyal.
Yeah.
So, I hope that answered the question.
Wow, dude.
So true.
I appreciate.
Between AI and offshore, outsourcing, it's the only way to scale, right? You've got to find ways to leverage both, leverage technology and leverage intelligent, hardworking engaged, lower cost offshore labor.
Well, and make those people figure out the AI. If you're an entrepreneur trying to crack the AI code, that's beneath your pay grade at the moment. Tell the EA, here's the process that we're currently following. Go figure out what AI tool. Now you get to scale your EA. So I think people think that AI is going to make people less relevant. I think it makes them more relevant because AI scales the human. So do you want to scale a mediocre employee? Yeah. Do you want to scale mediocre output or do you want to scale stellar output? So yeah, I'm excited about AI. We train all of our EAs on a weekly basis. We do this standing call where they get trained up on the newest tools, technology, best practices, and then we focus really heavily on AI.
Wow.
That's great.
I was just going to ask, you mentioned that you have this document, Pareto Talent /Delegate. Is there anything else that you have to offer or that ways that people can work with you if they want to learn more about what you do?
Yeah. So my quick link is kasim.me, KASIM.me. If you want to hire an EA from Pareto Talent, we'd love to have you apply. We have a limited number of EAs just because of my process works exactly the way I just described. And we're going after quality, not quantity. So we really want to match people based off of who's the best fit for our EA to make sure that we have retention. So anybody looking for an EA, reach out. Other than that, that's kind of all I'm doing right now. I'm still trying to figure life out, Scott, after my exit. But I appreciate you all having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to share this. I'm pretty passionate about it, as you can tell. And for whatever it's worth, I know I told you this in the pre-record, but I've been shopper-proof. I've been a shopper-proof fan from the very beginning. Like, y'all did it, man. You really cracked the code on, especially as a Google Ads agency. You did stuff that nobody done yet. And so it was just really helpful to have that tool when we had it. It's just full circle moment for me as an entrepreneur to now be able to work with you guys directly because, for the longest time, you were just nameless, faceless software that we really relied on. And now I get to see the guys behind the engine. So that's pretty cool too.
Well, we're probably responsible for making you a multi-billionaire, aren't we?
I think so. I probably owe you at least 50% of my exit. I'll send you a check. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, I wasn't going to, but you weren't. So I had to. I'm waiting
y'all
for
should
it.
start taking equity. That's right.
Well, Kasim, it's been amazing. As I said in the beginning, you are a brilliant, talented individual. And the fact that you have such a passion for people and humanity and working with people and helping people and really helping people find their sweet spot and what they're passionate about and then compensating them accordingly and bringing out the best in people. I think that's what you do. I think that's the secret to Solutions 8 and the things that you touch is really bringing out the best in people. And that's a Midas touch, really. And it's been a pleasure having you on the show. And we'd love to have you back and talk about this further because I think there's so many layers of this onion to unpeel and really look at and to see how companies can scale and grow using some of these concepts and principles and tools and things that you've done. So hopefully you'll say yes, and we'll get you back on in the future and see what the next level of outsourcing is with Pareto Talent.
Yeah, I'm all in. I appreciate that. In the meantime, I'm going to go read my new book, Reputation King.
Thanks for joining us again today. Yeah, we appreciate it. Appreciate you. Appreciate being a part of the mastermind and learning from you every week. And have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jess.
Bye-bye.